All right, welcome everybody. This is going to take me a second to get the stream going. I'm doing some development here. Let me get this, make sure the audio is good. It's been a little while. I've been pretty busy on some things. Yep, sounds good. And let me just share this on a couple places. And we'll get going. Working on some code for Cisco Crosswork. Their REST API. Come and join the fun. Okay. And one quick one on LinkedIn. Okay. And got a couple people in here. And I'm back. Okay, so what I'm working on is there was some interest in, I've transformed ACI and I've transformed ICE and I've transformed various platforms. There's this platform, Cisco Crosswork, for network automation. And it has an API system that I've started to work with, and I thought I would show you how to get going with the tool as well as the API system, which is just slightly different than maybe most APIs you've worked with, but we'll come to that. The good news is, if you go to the DevNet sandbox and type in Crosswork, there is a reservable sandbox. And that's going to be what I'm working with today. I have this sandbox reserved, and it has this topology with the Crosswork VMs and gateway and an NSO instance. I don't know what kind of nodes it has or anything, but this is the sandbox I'm working with. We can sign into the system as admin, and then the password. And this is the GUI, the dashboard, which we're not going to explore too much today, but we can see we have 7 devices and some playbooks and some KPI alerts, top triggered KPIs, the topology, the network automation to run playbooks, performance alerts and KPI indicators. So we're going to be looking at some of these things today through the API system. But I'll leave this open in case we do need to come back to the GUI for some reason, maybe to get an inspiration for an API. So there is a nice Cisco Crosswork Network Automation APIs guide to get you started, and some ideas about some APIs you might want to use. And I've started with just the Health Insights API. And I've started with this KPI management query. And as you'll notice, there's not a lot of gets. Most of these things are posts, but we're getting JSON back. There is one get here for device ID, but what we have to do is post to get the information we want with a body sometimes. So I just started with the very first one at the top. And what you can see is it's kind of hidden in here. The base URL to get to these is the IP address and the port of the Crosswork /crosswork/hi/ and then you can use the clipboard button here to copy in the path of the one that you want. But the parent is up here, and the path to the post you need to do is here. Now, in terms of authentication, they do this a little different. We have to first And I'm going to show you my Postman, and then we'll show you what we do and how I've done this in Python. There is, and they do have this in the documentation that I've been sharing with you, there is a Postman collection for, and it's APIs CL BCN19. And you can see that most of these things are posts, but then he names them get. So sort of to give you an idea that even though you're posting, really what you're doing is getting different pieces of information. Now these paths have to be changed to the sandbox, and you have to be on the VPN into the sandbox. But what we want to do is first get a ticket. And to get a ticket, we pass the SSO v1 tickets with a question username equals and our username, and then and password equals and our password. And if we hit send, this will give us this ticket. And this ticket is response.text in the Python world. Okay, so that's just text. So then what we need to do is get a token using that ticket. So we change the path from tickets and the username and password to tickets / the ticket that we just received as text, which will give us a token that for further jobs that we want to do, further requests that we want to do, we can use an authorization bearer token and pass that token in to the API. So it is a pretty secure API. There's multi-layers here. We have to get a ticket, request a token, and then pass in a bearer token to our further requests. And as you can see, this is the Postman for that health KPI query. And I'm using the bearer token. And there's no headers or anything. But I do have a body. And in this body, it needs the KPIs. And there's some other filters that I've just left turned on as a JSON payload to query against. So the query is expecting one or more KPIs. And I've just started with one that I found. And when we send that with our bearer token, we get back the JSON payload for that KPI. Now, the good news here is that this is a list. So I assume once I find some more KPIs to comma separate and add to this list, they will just get comma separated as dictionary entries here. So I don't know, that's sort of where I'm at. And now let's look at the Python, and let me blow up my code. Let me blow up the screen a bit here, and let's go over what I've started and where I'm at with the Python. And thanks for joining. If you're watching, you can say hello. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Let me just zoom in my screen a little bit so we can go over the Python. So I have my familiar files. I have a source folder with I've called this Crosswork Companion. I have my poetry files, my poetry lock and toml file that describe the package for when I put it onto Kpi and what packages to include and to pull down so that I can distribute this code. I have a script which is just saying if it's running the CLI, run the CLI to run this as a Python script for you, the user. And then, hey Jason, I'm working on Crosswork. Yeah, thanks for joining. So let's, what I'll do is collapse. Let me collapse everything and we'll go over the steps and I'll kind of show you where I'm at here. And I don't know what I'm going to do next per se, but let me just give you an update on where I've got so far. And this took me most of my morning over coffee, just kind of playing around with mainly the authentication system. So I have this, I want this to be asynchronous, but there is room for me to use requests library just to get my token back that I can use then in subsequent calls. I didn't make that asynchronous, but the rest of this stuff is asynchronous. So I use rich click to make this a CLI command for you. So after you pip install it, you can just run crosswork _ companion. And here is the click options that I want to present to the user. The URL that I want you to pass me, the username, and the password that I want you to pass me. So all I need are 3 things. And to remind you, these 3 things can be run at the command line as -- URL in the URL, -- username, -- password. They could be run where you just type crossword companion and press enter, and it will prompt you for these 3 things. Or you can export them as environment variables, which is what I usually do. Oh, I don't know. Somebody might be home. So I have the main function here, and we're going to initialize this function with the username, password, and URL that they pass us. We're going to make some directories to hold the output folder. Folders to hold the output for each of the APIs that we're doing. And actually, what I want to do, let me change this on the topic of folder structure. I'm actually going to make a multi-layer . Yeah, but now I have to update. Okay, so now I need to go to my folder creation. I'll come back to the main logic in a second, but let me... And I can leave the file name. So I'll leave the file name as the full folder structure, but let's put in a pathing that matches the tree structure of the API, because there's other health information APIs. So what we can do here is put them all into nice bundled folders. Okay. All right, so back to the logic. There's going to be a token and the ticket system that I went over in Postman a minute ago. So what we're saying is make the directories and then get a ticket, and then from that ticket get a token, and then run self.main, and we're going to call on this token in self.main later, and run self.main asynchronously. So make directories is pretty straightforward. And I guess I have to put in the subfolder here. I haven't done that yet. Let me delete this and see if that's going to be a problem. If I have to do subdirectories differently or something, we'll see. Now here is what we did with Postman, but we're going to do it Pythonically. So there's no payload, but we have our headers, and our URL is going to be the URL that the user passes in to the Crosswork SSO v1 tickets. Username equals the username that the user passed in, and the password that the user passed in. We're going to set up ticket request response to be the post against that URL with our headers and our payload, and we're going to verify false because it's a self-signed certificate. So I could print this here, and we'll run it, and I'll print what we have as of this step, and it's just going to be the text. Now it's going to continue to do more things, but right there, this text string is the result of this requests post is this text string. Now that text string is what we're going to return from this little function. Then we're going to call a get token passing that ticket into this next call where we go to tickets/that ticket, and let's move the print statement and let's print our ticket. Just to show you where we're at in the code. Now there, right, is the ticket. Now this is the token we can use as a bearer token for our subsequent calls. I'll delete that print statement. So then, now next we can get into main. And what main says, hey Pariah, thanks for joining. Yeah, this is relatively new to me as well. So, and a good way to get to know a product is to explore its APIs. So this is pretty cool. And I'll show you the output's pretty neat. I'm getting to the output, so thanks for sticking with me. So I'm starting with that health indicator. What is it? Health indicator? Health insights, excuse me. Health insights KPI management query is my API. Actually, I skipped over main. So what I'm saying in main is to set up something called results, which is the asynchronous gather of a loop of each API in my list of APIs. Now right now I only have one, but the idea here is when I have 5, 10, 15, 100 APIs, go call all of them asynchronously. Just go start getting the data in individual threads instead of waiting for something like requests. And then I'll work with the JSON output of all of that data later. Now for now, it's only a single request, but what I plan on doing is making a JSON file, a YAML file, a CSV file, a Markdown file, and an HTML file, as well as a Mindmap file, asynchronously. So I say await async gather and then call each of those passing in the parse data. And it works so far. So you've seen me run it, and let me add the word time and run it. Now it's one API, but in, oh, did I not save it? Let me save it. I'm still printing things. So I print the auth code for my username and password. I print my ticket call status code, and then I print the API that I'm calling status code. And this is taking, sub-seconds to run. Now, what do we get from this? Well, here's the JSON that we get. And it has our KPIs, and this KPI is the pulse CPU utilization. And I'm getting that from pulse CPU utilization here. So I need to find what other pulse KPIs we have, or what other KPIs are available. I'd like to do that next and add it to this list and see if all of the keys are the same, because then I can template it. So let's quickly look for that. And I didn't seem to see the list here. This is where I got Pulse CPU utilization from, was here. Model, KPIs, see an array of strings that specify the Kpi IDs. So we may need to, here's a different one, maybe CPU util. Is that different than, no. I need to go looking for Cisco Crosswork Kpi IDs. I'm not sure. I don't want to waste too much time on this, but what I'd like to do is get more of these. Pulse. And I'm not sure where in the guide I'm going to find the list of the KPIs that are available here. Health Insights Developer Guide, maybe? KPI, here we are. So what are KPIs? Here we are. So no, I'm getting close though. KPI name, but what I need is the KPI ID. Is that the same one, CPU threshold? No, there's CPU utilization. So there's another one. Let me just see this. What I want to see is I'm going to add that to my header. Pulse, what was it? CPU threshold. Okay, let's try that out again and let's see if this JSON file that had one KPI before has two KPIs now. And it does. Okay, wonderful. Now the other thing to look at here is to split the screen and see, is the model the same for both of them? It looks the same to me. Okay, so what I can do is write my template knowing that once I find a guide that gives me more of these KPI IDs, We just need to add them to that header. But let's move ahead with the Jinja templating. Now what I'm probably going to do, okay, I don't need split screen here. This is the JSON output, and I also have it in YAML format now. So I haven't Jinja2 templated anything yet, but I do have these in YAML dictionaries and in the JSON, which I'm going to be working with. So I see dashboards is a list here. So I have an outer list. And if you think of this in terms of like a CSV file, for each one of these KPIs, I want to have a single line in my CSV file. But where I have things like a list inside of that, I either have to add a duplicate, right? There'd be 2 rows, a row for each dashboard in the CSV file. But then we have scripts, which also has a list here of scripts, and then a list here of parameters for those scripts, which seems to have a lot. So what we might do is either make separate files, and there's also sensor groups, which is also a list, and it has a sensor path list within this list as well. So it might be best to break this up into 3 different files possibly. And what I mean by that is with the Jinja templates that we have, we could template one that just has this name, this file name, Health Information KPI Management Query, and it would be all of this information. Everything that doesn't have a list would be in that file. And then we would have one called Dashboards, and then we would have one called Scripts, and one called Sensor Groups. Right, so it's a little bit more templating, it's a little bit more work, but I think that's the way to do it. Now the only thing is for like scripts, I guess I just do it 3 times. I have to figure that out. Well, let's now that we know that that's working, let's go back. I won't do the Jinja templating. I can do the Jinja templating later. It's kind of, I suppose I could do it. I suppose I could do a Jinja template for the outer information here, and then add another. I'm just debating whether or not I need separate files for something like dashboard, because yeah, otherwise it's going to be so deep. Okay, all right, what we're going to do is we have to go to our API. And if API equals that, Oh yeah, it automatically expands those fields. I'm gonna have to live with it. All right, so sensor groups and scripts are out, and dashboards are out. And I guess alert outputs. Or do I just want to make it one big row and keep them all in? I'm debating how I want to template this. If I get rid of alert outputs, that could be my base report there. And then I would need to make one for alert outputs, dashboards, scripts, and sensor groups. But let's do this one for now. And what we'll do is move the name and the ID to the top. And I'm going to get rid of all of this. And this is going to take a little bit of time to clean this up for the templates, but this is the way it goes. You'll see in a second why this is. Now, does details have any commas in it? Do you see any commas in there? I guess well, there's a semicolon, that doesn't hurt us. Someone could put a comma in here and throw off the CSV file. So it's more of a reminder to myself when I get to details. Use the Jinja to replace. I didn't see any commas here either, did you? Let me close this. No. Okay, so that's going to be line 1. And then we're going to copy the same thing. Right, and name and ID went first. And this we need to wrap in our for loop. Right, so for KPI in data to template KPIs KPI this up a bit. And I mean, I guess I didn't see a comma. Let's not do replace there if we don't have to. We'll see what the report looks like. So we're just cleaning out the data. And then here at the front, right, we're going to do mustache, Kpi dot. That should do it. Okay, now let's try it. Error free, and now let's see what our CSV looks like. Here we go. Okay, wonderful. We have both of the KPIs, utilization of threshold, and all of the information about it. Now we're off here by one field. Summary or sensor type. So let's look at the YAML and let's look for commas. Right, okay, so description. This GNMI Yang maybe? So the second last field, sensor type. Yeah, right there, comma. Okay, all right. So we're gonna go in here and under sensor type, fix that to have the replace, comma. Save that, run that again. And go back and take a look. There we go, much better. Now we still need to make all those other files. So this is like the base query information. And then we're going to add the 4 other file types. Okay, so that's going pretty well. So the next thing we need to do, or what I'll do, is finish off these templates. So we'll move to the Markdown next. And for the Markdown, this is Health Insights. Kpi management query. And we can get rid of the replace here because we don't care about the comma. And now we can do a find replace on our comma and make it space pipe space. And then we have to fill in our header delimiter row here for Markdown. Okay, so we'll run it again. And thanks for joining me. So now we should have a nice Markdown file, and we do. There we go. And it renders as a Markdown file. Nice table here. And as you can see, we don't care about the comma here. And we have our CPU threshold and utilization. So we could also look at this as a mind map, although this is not the mind map file, but we'll have the two entries here. Still kind of neat. So now, speaking of mind maps, we're not there yet. We're going to do the HTML page next. And I'm going to cheat. Do I have to cheat? Yeah, I'm going to cheat and just find some working code of mine. And this is just to save time for my HTML. Right, so we're going to close the table in the body, close the row. Okay, and this is Health Insights KPI Management Query. So what I've done is taken in, I already have my header and footer, which is the data table stuff. And inside of here, I just need to template an HTML table and with a specific table ID of data table so that my JavaScript picks up and turns it into a data table instead of an HTML table. I'm not quite done here. I have to finish up this file. And instead of, we don't need to worry about the replace here. So now what we're going to do for the commas is we're going to replace them with our closing header. And an opening header. And then change it to TD for the cells in the table. They're all off by one. Okay, now that should be it. I should have a nice HTML data table now. And there it is. Wonderful. Looking good. Looking good. Now, the last thing is the mind map, which will be pretty easy. We're going to take most of this code and go to our mind map and get rid of all of our HTML stuff. Change that to a pound sign as the root. And we're going to have our ID, Kpi ID, followed by the Kpi name. Now it's up to us how much we want to nest it. I think that's good with the ID followed by all of the rest of these. Category. And then we can have created by, on, details, last updated, by, on, module and revision. summary. All right, now let's see what the mind map looks like. Yeah, looking really good. Have our created by, last updated by. So would you rather have it by name and then the ID? I think that might look nicer. And then for each of the queries, we would get a new tree in the mind map, right? Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so that's really, that's one part of the API that I found. Again, I need to do the alerts, the dashboards, the scripts, the sensor groups as separate files. Right, because each of them have their own. So what I'm going to do is pass the full, right, so inside of my, right, if on this, if API equals, what I'm going to do is pass in the same data a few different times and make separate folders or separate files. So we have to start with the Python, and we have to go to the CSV file here. Oh, and I missed something here, so hang on. Sorry, I missed something there, here as well. All right, so now what I need to do is for my CSV here, I need to do this. No, I'm already doing that. I just need to copy this here. No, because here's what I'm passing in as API. I was on the right track there. Here is where I'm going to say KPI management query alert outputs. Alert a second file, right? And then template alert outputs. So let's just do that for, right? So elif API equals, and that custom string I put in here. And let me get this right. It should be Kpi KPI. So if it equals that, then there's an alert tag in the alert outputs. So what we're going to do is KPI key, KPI name, alert output tag. I guess that's it. There's just the alert output tag. So here we're going to have for KPI in so right for in each one of these iterations, and then in each one of these alert output iterations. For tag in KPI alert outputs alert output. Having trouble with that word alert. I think that's right. Let's close off these for loops. And we're going to have ID and name, and then tag alert tag. Right, for tag inside of this, so then it would be tag alert tag. Okay, let's try it. We should get a new file now. And we're error free here. Right, so now there's the output alerts. There we go. Right, and there should be two tags. And you can filter out by the tag you want or the name you want or the alert output tag that you want. So now it's just a matter of doing the same thing again, right? Over and over again. So we're going to take this new logic and go into the Markdown file. And I guess we'll call this alert output tags. And I'll just do these manually because there's only a few. Okay, that should give us a markdown file. Oh no, hang on. I have to update the Python. Let's go back to the Python now that we know that our CSV is working here. And what's our best way of doing this? I guess I could just, no. And this one's going to be called alert output. Now I should have a markdown file. And there we go. Yeah, nice. Okay, so let's go back to our Python then. And do the same for our HTML file. And the mind map as well. Okay, all right. And then we have to finish our templating for our HTML and our mind maps, which doesn't take very long. A lot of this is copy paste at this point. So we're going to close our table and body, close our row, actually, yeah. You know what? These are there's so few of them, I'll just do them manually. And then here, right, we need, and this is alert output. And let's do the mind map. We may as well while we're here. And then we'll render them and I'll take a look at them. So what we're going to do is actually move these out a layer and have them here. We got to get rid of these HTML tags. We agreed that the name was better in the mind map first. So if I make that root, make name second, Kpi ID third, and then for each tag, what we'll do is this, we'll add a 3 here that says tags, and then we'll have a 4th that is the tag. So let's take a look at our HTML page first. Looking good, yep, as expected. And then our mind map. Right? Our tags for each alert. So that's a good start. I'm going to shut the stream off. Maybe come back to this over the weekend. Thanks for joining me. What is next? Well, in that JSON, I still have, that was the alert outputs. I still have dashboards, scripts, and sensor groups to finish. And once they're done, right, there's a whole wide world of APIs to look at. So that's how we get started. And remember, as a recap, we have to get a ticket from the API system. And then from that, we submit that ticket ID to get a token. And then we send that token as a bearer token against each of the APIs. We get JSON payloads back, which look like this, right? And this will be fun to finish modeling into Mindmap or into business-ready documents. So far, we've done a couple of these different files. And we're making some pretty good progress. So have a good weekend. I'll be around. I'll probably do some more streaming tomorrow or maybe even later tonight. I'm not sure. I'm just going to take a break. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again. This is Cisco Crosswork using the REST API for